Hi all, welcome to forceGalaxy. Hope you are doing good. So today in this video I'm going to share another interview with you. So this interview is of around 2 to 2.5 years of experience person. Okay, and one more thing would like to tell you that do not focus on the answers of candidate. It might be correct or it might not be. So if you have any queries or any doubt in any question, do let me know in the comment section, and I will try my best to respond you as soon as possible. And it hardly happens I unable to respond you, and most probably I respond you within the same day. Okay, so if you have any queries, do let me know. Here, one more thing I would like to tell you that so if you are adding any projects in your resume on like on LWC or on Aura, so please be confident on explaining the project. Okay, and please be aware and please be have a knowledge on the basic of that particular part. That is, like, if you are showing LWC project you have working from past 6 years, then an interviewer will expect you from you that you must be aware about the basic things in the LWC, like the decorators, life cycle notes, okay, and how to make components talk to each other. So these type of question he will expect you, answers of these question will expect you. And let's start with the interview.
I can.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
One.
Okay. So let's start with the interview. So please introduce yourself.
Initial of my career, I have started as an administrator. Then I have moved for the development with the same organization. Into administration, I have the skills like automation, doing with the help of workflow, process builders, and flows as well, and also involved in user management, objects, custom objects, fields, and relationships of that. Relationship between the top objects as well. And then coming to my development skills, I have the hands-on experience on Apex classes, Apex triggers, Lightning with the Aura components, and recently I have involved in the LWC. From past 6 months, we are working on that LWC. So this is what brief introduction about it.
Okay. What was you working on LWC? What project you were working?
It is like we are building the component for the UI. It is like a dynamic searching.
Okay. What do you have built there?
I have built the UI for entering some data to create some data into the database, and also I use for the fetching of that data from the database as well, and display it in the form of tables like that.
Okay. What decorators you have used in this fetching the data?
I'm not getting
What decorators you have used in this component?
decorators.
Yeah.
Like I use for Apex classes for that, and by clicking on that button, it will go and fetch the data from the database. Like this scenario, like this we use.
Okay. How many decorators we have in LWC?
I'm not much aware of that.
Okay. Okay. So, do you know this connected callback, render callback in LWC?
No, I'm not much involved in that.
Okay. Did you work on Aura components also?
Yeah, I worked on Aura.
Okay. How many types of events we have?
Like two events,
Okay.
like application event and component event. Mostly we use them.
Okay. Why do we use this component event?
Whenever there is a scenario like you need to coordinate and to get communicate between child and parent component like that, we use component events.
How we used to connect between parent and child?
Like we use first of all we need to register that event in the child and fire that in the controller of that component. Then we need to handle that in the parent side.
Okay. What are NQ actions in Aura component?
NQ actions are like it needs to add that functionalities to the queue. It will operates whenever the resources are full like that. You need to add that functional. I mean, the job to be done in a queue.
Is it related to Apex control methods also?
Yeah, it is like a server-side connection, establishing the server-side connection to the database in the controller level.
Okay. Can I here in the JS controller, can I call JS controller method to another method?
Yeah, you can call
How?
by using a helper.
No, it is
helper.
using helper, but within the same controller, only in the JS controller. Without using helper, can I call one method from another?
I think it won't possible. I haven't tried that, but
Okay.
as of now, as of my knowledge, it won't possible.
Okay. Do you aware about system components also?
System components, yeah, like on click on change.
Okay. And you must have used this dollar sign in your components.
Yeah,
Why do we use this?
if it will enhance the access to the framework like RF framework. $A. It will grant access to the framework to connect with the server side actions.
Okay. So, do you have any idea, as we are already having this Aura component, so why there is a need to go with LWC web components?
Yeah, Aura components has the bundle of 8 components. Like it has 8 things in the bundle. But in LWC there is only like majorly 3 things like HTML, JavaScript, and XML, JavaScript, XML format. So as LWC is a very standardized format to write the code, and to generic format. In generic format, we can operate the functionalities in the LWC.
Anything else?
We can easily communicate between the controllers like database, and we will use that import things from the LWC. Whatever the events we need to file in our component, we use import a library, something files, whatever we want to use.
Okay. Do you aware about the life cycle of Aura components?
Life cycle, like first of all, in Aura we will build template in the component level. We will write establishing the communication between database to our component with the help of a controller, and client side actions can be written in the controller level.
Okay.
From controller level, it will connect to the database with the help of Apex classes. So then from Apex classes, we can get that to our controller, and from controller level, we can, if there is any scenario to display that data from the database to the UI, we can use that like
Okay.
component dot get component dot set.
Okay. So, what was your project which you built using this Aura component?
Like we used for the dynamic search formats only, we use for that other components.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are aware about the LDS also in this Aura component?
Yeah, LDS Lightning Data Services. It will create or interact with the database without the help of Apex classes. We can directly interact with that uh, data in our system through the organization.
So how is it possible we can directly interact with this data without going calling server side?
It is inbuilt as the inbuilt functionality uh, in form, like there is a forms created in that LDS like input form.
Okay, in this LDS, do field level service enforced or not? Do it check the field level services or not?
No, I don't have idea on that.
So, have you worked on triggers also?
Yeah, I've worked on triggers.
Okay, what are the best practices to write a trigger?
Uh, Best practice for trigger is like we need to write only one trigger for the one object
Okay.
and avoid DML operations inside the loops and try to avoid the bulk like logic inside the trigger instead of writing uh, bulk logic inside the trigger. We can try like a trigger handlers or if you like we need to create another office classes and we can call that class to that trigger by passing parameters like context variables like trigger.new, trigger.world, world map, new map. So according to our scenarios, we can pass that as a parameters to the Apex classes.
So, what are these context variables?
Context variables are the implicit variables that will run on the time of execution. So whenever the developer wants to use that things, it will be handy for the developer to execute that functionality. Like trigger.new will have the all the new versions of the records like that. So old trigger.world will have the old versions of the records.
Okay, so let's suppose there is a class, okay, and I want method of this class only run if it is calling from a trigger. So
Okay.
how do we can check this? I only want to run this method if it is if it is called from a trigger.
Like you can use that trigger.is execute.
Okay. Have you worked on integrations also?
But I didn't have hands-on experience on integration, but I have theoretical knowledge how the functionalities work on integration.
Okay. So what are feature methods?
The feature methods are the asynchronous operations which will run whenever the resources are free. Like actually, Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture, so to leverage these resources to every organization, whether it is a small scale or large scale, it is providing resources equally for all the organizations. So that it's provided governor limits to uh, to use that resources freely for all organizations. They use governor limits. So to avoid that governor limits, we can enhance the governor limits and we can operate the things in the whenever the resources are free. So whichever the bulk actions are taking time, that operations can be run background. So it runs in a separate thread.
Okay. Can I call feature method from another feature method?
No, it can't be called.
Why?
So there is no specific time when it is going to run.
Okay. What type of parameter we usually pass in feature methods?
Parameters primitive also only primitive I think.
Okay. Why only primitive? Why not non-primitives?
Uh, Non-primitive can be there is a subject things can be again it uh, will will be responsible for the some kind of operations in the database. So like a subjects, if you use a subjects like that, if it is manipulating some data into the database, so again there is no specific time that operations will run at the future.
So
So
is
that it
there
will
any
be
way? Yeah. Is there any way to pass non-primitive data also, or it is not possible?
I think it won't possible. I don't know. I don't have any exact solution.
Okay. So how do we make call out from triggers?
call out from triggers.
Yeah, can we directly make a call out from triggers? So how do we call?
We can use trigger handlers for that.
Okay, trigger handlers is okay. And so you are saying that we can call from the triggers.
Yeah,
Have you used the batch class also?
yeah, I use that.
Okay. So if I want to call one batch class from another batch class, in which method we will going to do this?
From finish method, we will establish chain from the finish method.
Why not in start or execute?
Both start method and finish method will run only once for the execution. So start method will use for the fetching of the data or on which data we need to make operations. But in execute method, we will make the operations. We will make the changes what we are desired for. We will make that operation in the execute method. But in finish method, it is as it is running only one time. It will post execution methods will taken care in the finish method.
Okay. Which interface we implement in batch class?
Database.batchable.
Database.batchable. Okay. And if I want to make call out from batch class?
We'll have idea about that.
Okay. Also use this database.stateful.
Yeah, we can use that.
Why do we use this?
To track the previous executed method information also for the further executions. Like as the execute method will run as many times we declare the batch size. So the previous execution method data should be transferred for the next execution method. So that database that stateful is helpful.
Okay, so let's suppose I have 400 records, okay, to be processed with the batch class. Okay, so default size for chunk is 200, so 2 chunks will be created for this. Okay, so now here in the second chunk, in one of the record I have got some exception or some error is there, the record is not correct. So I want to know, will both chunk will roll back or partially commit will take place? What will happen in this case?
Uh, first chunk will be committed to the database.
Okay.
So partial execution will be taken place.
And about second chunk, what will happen?
Second chunk also it will partially insert.
Okay, it will partially insert.
Yeah.
Okay. So it did it depend on anything, or as per the batch class you were saying it will partially insert?
As it is a database class, so it will partially insert.
Okay, so you must have used this DML insert, update, and delete and all. Okay, so and there is
Yeah.
one more way that is database dot insert, database dot update. So what is the difference between both?
Yeah, normal DML operations will be there is a chance of is there any exceptions were filed, the total transaction will be rolled back. But in database dot insert methods like that, there is a option like partial insertion, and that too we can track that how many records were inserted, how many what not inserted, and there may be a like error message about what it is getting reverted, so that there is a full tracking of that records transaction. The database
Okay.
dot insert update.
Okay, so what do you mean by this with sharing keyword we use in our Apex classes? So what does this
Yeah,
mean?
with sharing is a keyword like it enables that class is going to run in the user context.
Okay.
So like if that user has some restrictions for some kind of objects, fields like that, it will be implemented for that.
So
user how
this
he is going
keyword will
to
going
access
to
it.
check for profile level permissions and the field level permissions also, or only the record level permissions?
Yeah, everything, every permissions is will take. Okay.
Okay, so let's suppose I have an Apex class to run, and on the
Mhm.
same object there are some validation rules are going on. Okay, so I want whenever my trigger or Apex class runs, so it should avoid these validation rules. It should not fire. So can I do this?
Validation rules is firing whenever the Apex class is running.
Yeah. So I want to avoid
Mhm.
this for this particular Apex class.
Yeah, as we can use without sharing, but Apex class will add the defaultly without sharing.
So, but with using without sharing and sharing, it will going to enforce the sharing rules and all, not the validation rules. It will not apply to the validations rule.
Okay. I don't have idea.
Okay. So, are you aware with the hierarchical custom settings?
Hierarchical system.
Custom settings. There are two types of
Yeah.
custom settings: list and hierarchical.
List and custom, full hierarchical.
So, what is hierarchical custom setting?
Hierarchical is like whenever the user is going to when there is a like custom settings used for the frequent to access the frequently used data.
Okay. What do you know in the data security in Salesforce?
Data security have the three levels of that data security, like object level security, field level security, and record level security.
Okay.
And we can maintain this data security with the help of profiles, permission sets, and OWT as well.
OWD, OW, can you specify this using yeah, what methods or what comes under object level security, what comes under field level security, and what comes under record level security?
Okay, object level security comes for the total access level of that object in the organization. So if they hide any object in the application, we will disable that in the profile level of that from the profile level of that specific object for the specific user. So we can use that object level security for the restriction of the uh, objects in the organization. Like if you want to implement some restrictions or enabling that field levels for the specific users or the profiles, we can use the field level security. And if there is any scenario like we need to restrict or enabling the access level of records, we can go for record level security. Then
What comes under record level security?
in record level security, like OWD, role hierarchy, manual sharing, and sharing roles.
So there are two users, okay, and object
Okay.
test object is there. So what will happen if the OWD for this test object is private?
So both the users can't see that object.
Okay. So now I want that. So there is a pick list value, pick list field having three values A, B, C. Okay. So now my requirement is like this: if the user A records having value as B, then only I can share this with another user, that is user B. So how I can achieve this?
It's criteria with the help of criteria based settings we can
Okay. So in this case, OWD will be
like private one.
okay. And what are the conditions in which we can see this manual sharing button?
Like we manual sharing is like the last option for the sharing of the records for this. See, manually we can share that records to the specific person or roles. Which there is a button
Yeah,
like manual
so
share.
is there
When
any
you
so is there any conditions or it will always be visible?
like if that portability is private and that role hierarchy is grant access is unchecked. I'm not aware
Okay.
like this.
So in how many ways we can make a field mandatory?
Yeah, for previous question I can answer. Manual sharing can be opt for if there is no way to share that records with the help of sharing rules like criteria based or owner based. We can only go for with sharing rules. I mean manual sharing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so the next question is so in how many ways we can make a field mandatory?
Field mandatory can be obtained with the help of validation rules.
Okay.
With which while creating the field there is an option like mandatory field, mandatory checkbox. We can if we check that it can be make as mandatory, and with the help of triggers also according to my only these three ways.
Yeah. So now next, are you aware about this page layouts and record types? Any use case?
Can you repeat the question please?
Record types and page layouts. Any use case?
Yeah, page layouts and record types. There is if there is any scenario like we need to segregate the data in the object level, we can go for record types and page layouts. Within the object level, if you want to segregate the data based on some specifics, if there is any scenario like that, we can go for that record types.
Okay. Any example?
If we can also control that fields visibility for that.
Okay.
If we select one kind of record type, there is a one kind of page layout.
Okay.
So record type can have individual page layout.
Okay. So have you also worked on flows, right?
Yes.
So what are the recent updates which we have recently come in this release, Salesforce release?
Flow builders will have flow builders is having the before and after operations can be separated with the help of flow builders. Like it have the 5 kinds of uh, up screen flow, record trigger flow, platform event trigger flow, like auto launch flow, schedule trigger flow, all these kinds of that having in the flow builders. This is what I know into this.
Okay, so as you know, in Flow we have almost all the functionalities which we can, all the automations also which we can achieve using triggers also. So anything in which you suggest when to go with triggers or when to go with flows?
Like if we use the flows, there is a maximum functionality can be built in the flows nowadays. If there is any scenario like adding the add error methods, we can go for triggers. I think maximum we can do that with the help of triggers is can be achieved with the flows.
So hope you have gone through all the questions. If you have any queries, do let me know. We'll meet you soon in the next video.